Hi everyone, it's Adam Coburn here at Low & Co Realty. Thanks for checking in. Today we're looking at the Wellington real estate market data for the month of March 2023 compared to 1 and in some cases 2 years ago. Very interesting market continues, folks. Wellington demand is recovering. So the demand for real estate seems to be recovering. New listings remain very, very tight. Overall, the market has stabilised, and my message to buyers continues to be get in amongst it, take advantage of these conditions while they last. So let's get into the detail. Median sale price, March 2023, 750,000 versus a year ago, March 2022, 937,000. It's down 20%. No, there's no question, 20% is quite a big drop. But if you look at the detail there in the graph there, and you look at the blue bar chart, that is the monthly results, and the red line, of course, is the 6-month moving average. The blue bar chart, you can see there, over the last 8 months or so, since July 2022, those median sale prices, they've been bouncing up and down, but broadly quite stable for quite some period of time. So down 20% since 12 months ago, but over the last 8 months or so, really quite stable. If you follow these videos, you'll know that I don't pay too much attention to the median sale price, because the median price itself is as much a reflection of the mix of properties that have been sold that month as it is a reflection of the underlying values of the properties. So the best guide to underlying values, I suggest, is the Real Estate Institute House Price Index. So let's have a look at that now. So you can see here, Wellington region, this is down 2.5% in the last month, down 2.5% in March, down 2.6% in the last 3 months, 18.6% in the last year, and down almost 25% at 24.8% since the peak, October-ish 2021. So interestingly, you look at the 1 month and the 3 month numbers there, 2.5% drop and 2.6% drop. So basically what that's saying is that over the last 3 months it's fallen the same amount as it has over the last 1 month. And the reason that is because in February we saw an increase of about 2.5% or thereabouts, and so that essentially nullifies the most recent result. So 2.6% over the last 3 months, it's still a fall, no question about that. But and what we've seen quite recently, or over the last, since about July last year, July 2022, is that the falls over the 3 month basis have tended to be quite modest. So again, this is a reflection that the market in Wellington has been stabilising, and I suggest is now reasonably stable. If we look here at the falls in value from the peak, again, we saw this last month, the numbers for Auckland and Wellington at 22% and 24.8%, are there or thereabouts. So Wellington led the charge. Wellington values started falling essentially before anywhere else in the country. They fell really quite steeply, and then they've been flattening out since about July last year, in particular in the city. Auckland was later and was falling slower, but it is now essentially caught up. And according to this metric, Auckland and Wellington have fallen further than anywhere else, potentially indicating that they are now better value than the rest of the country. And if we look here at the house price index growth, again, you can see that blue line is the 1 month results and the orange line is the 3 month results. And you can see quite clearly there that over the last 8 months or so, since July 2022, the value drops that we've seen on a 1 month or a 3 month basis, and of course the 3 month rolling average or the 3 month cumulative result is a more reliable indicator. It doesn't bounce around as much, and it has been consistently smaller drops than we saw sort of early to mid 2022 when the market in Wellington was at its slowest. So value drops have been much slower since July 2022. Carrying on with the rest of the details, how many new listings have we seen? 663 in March 2023 versus 943 a year ago and 804 2 years ago. So compared to a year ago, that's a 30% drop in the amount of new listings coming to the market. what this is telling us is vendors are holding back. There are a bunch of vendors out there that might otherwise be selling, but they're not because they're concerned. Perhaps they're nervous that the property is not going to get the same or the price that they think it will be worth, it should be worth, or that they want, or that it's taking too long or it's too hard to sell. Therefore, they're not bringing their property to the market. So we certainly have seen a pulling back of vendors from the market. New listings volumes have been consistently down over the past number of months, and in the next graph here you can quite clearly see that when the blue or the red lines are down below the 0 mark, that means we are seeing a contraction of new listings coming to the market compared to 12 months ago. So quite clearly you can see there that over the last 6 months we've had an average of 562 listings compared to 829 for the same 6-month period to March 2022. On average, a 32% reduction. And again, the blue lines, you can see that quite clearly. We have been in a tightening supply market since September 2022 on a consistent basis. How many sales have been taking place? So this is, if you like, a proxy for the amount of demand. So we've just looked at the amount of supply coming to the market. What about the demand side of things? Well, we've seen 599 sales take place in March 2023 versus 619 a year ago and 928 2 years ago. So whilst March 2023 was 35% down on volumes of 2 years ago, it was only 3% down on March 2022 levels. So whilst we have seen volumes still, sale volumes at a low level, the degree to which they are less than the 12-month period previous is easing significantly. We have been running at sort of 20, 30, even 40% fewer sales, and in March it was only 3% fewer. And again, the next graph clearly shows that we have seen consistently fewer sales, fairly consistently anyway, since about the middle of 2021, with one exception in January 2022. But quite clearly, since November 2022 there, you can see that we went from almost 40% fewer sales taking place than 12 months prior to, in March 2023 now, almost the same amount. So sales volumes are normalising. In the last 6 months, to summarise, we've seen new listings down by 32%, but in the last 6 months, we've seen sales volumes down only by 20%. And that mismatch is kind of leading to the market stabilising, as I keep saying. How long has it taken to sell? 49 days in March versus 42 days a year ago and 28 days 2 years ago. So again, 49 days is longer than 42 days, but only longer by 17%. And so that gap between now and 12 months prior is again narrowing. So again, entering a more stable market. And certainly 49 days, significantly less than the 62 and 69 days that we saw in January and February of this year, respectively. Inventory, the amount of weeks worth of supply we've seen on the market, 16 weeks worth of supply in March 2023 versus 17 a year ago and 6 2 years ago. So again, 2 years ago, an exceptionally tight market, 6 weeks worth of supply. Interestingly, for the first time we've seen for quite a while, we've seen less inventory on the market than we saw 12 months ago. So 16 weeks versus 17 weeks, probably not statistically significant. It could be just variation in the data, but nonetheless, it's certainly a different story than we have seen in the last 12 months or so, which of course has been big increases in the amount of inventory. So we've seen really a stable inventory compared to 12 months ago. In the intervening 12 months period, of course, we've seen it go up and then broadly come back down again. We did have a big bounce towards the end of 2022 and started 2023. So we're certainly down from those recent peaks, which were sort of 22, 24 weeks worth of supply, back down to what is a much more normal level compared to the long-term trend at 16 weeks. Again, good news for sellers and further evidence that the market has broadly stabilised. Number of listings on Trade Me, just as of today when we're recording this, 2,765 listings in the Wellington region on Trade Me versus a year ago, 2,966. And again, first time we've seen this for quite some time, we have actually got fewer listings on Trade Me now than we did 12 months ago. A far cry from what we've seen in the last 18 months generally, which was rapidly increasing levels of supply until, again, as I keep saying, about July 2022. So gross volume of listings in the Wellington region over the last 12 months or so has, yes, it's been up and down a little bit with seasonal trends, but broadly speaking, it has gone sideways. And as I say, for the first time in quite a while, we've seen a reduction in the number of listings compared to 12 months ago. So again, good news for sellers. And the next graph, you can see that quite clearly. We did reach a peak of 160% more supply than 12 months prior, and that was back in June of 2022. Since then, we have seen the comparison come right back down to this most recent month, or as of today in April, a reduction compared to 12 months ago. So again, that trend has been quite clear since about July of 2022. Again, as I keep saying, the market has been showing signs of stabilising since that time. So in summary, folks, Wellington values, yes, they are down, but only down very slightly over the last 3 months, and we've seen that quite consistently since about broadly winter time of 2022. New listings volumes have been consistently low since October 2022, and that remains the case. Sales volumes, on the other hand, whilst they have been low for quite some time compared to 12 months prior, they have been recovering on a relative basis over the last 5-6 months or so. Duration to sell is still long, but it is down on recent peaks. Inventory is back and remains back at normal levels over the last couple of months. Trade Me listings are lower than a year ago for the first time in about 18 months or so. The Wellington market, as I keep saying, has been relatively stable since July of 2022. Buyers, if you can buy, if you find something you like out there, I strongly recommend take advantage of these conditions. They won't last forever. Thanks for checking in. It's Adam here at Low & Co. See you next month. Cheers.